Hey, and welcome to TSOB. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who are interested in investing or starting their own funds. We are Adam Anderson and Zach Eikenberry. Join us to get a behind-the-scenes look at the relationships between founding entrepreneurs and the VCs that invest in them. Hey, you, I don't like your startup. No, wait, you don't have any customers. What a sad thing that is to have an amazing idea that you just know will work and nobody will give you the money to go and do it.
Yeah, I do. So because of my methodology of don't build and hope people will come, I go out and sell it before.
Yep.
I avoid the market timing issue. But the truly innovative, cool items in the world, I imagine most of them haven't made it to market because of timing, early traction issues, etc. I see that all the time.
Yeah, if you're truly innovative, then the market's probably not ready for you, and therefore you're not going to be giving any of the signs that a VC or an investor would look at that would de-risk them putting money into your coffers. So
that's right. And then the patience of early investors into early products, right? Like angels. I was just talking with some angels a couple weeks ago and saying, hey, we're 8 years away from an IPO, and the guy literally said, "Don't say that to me." And I said, "Oh yeah?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm an angel. I want my money back much sooner than that, 3 to 5 years." And I was like, "You're not a very good angel."
No, then get into private equity, not into venture capital. You're in the wrong room, sir.
Yeah. This is investing 201. You want
101.
You want Spanish for idiots next door.
Oh, there you go. Spidiots. Go get in your spidiots. Yeah. Well, I had a couple of topics I wanted to chat about today, but what's on your head though? Give me an update. Where's Hook? Where are you with the business? What's going great? Let's talk about 5 minutes and just kind of, because the purpose of this isn't just for us to speak about any smart thing we think about. It's also to have an oral history of what a cyber security innovation SaaS, et cetera thing looks like. And so people are going to be able to listen to this and hear all of the things about what it's like to scale a company backed by venture.
So what's happening play by play this week is we're on the hunt for a lead investor. Been updating our current investors, been updating our current projections on revenues, which will impact our valuations, and trying to get a lift going with two organizations, one a CFO investment type bank, and another a startup who focuses on creating capital access for startups like us. Getting those off the ground to start doing the intros and what have you. I find it's very interesting that I'm constantly in this dance with investor groups, especially experts at investment. And I'm not questioning their expertise, but the dance goes like this. Okay, here's all my materials. And then they say, okay, here's all the recommended improvements we make. And so I make those changes and then I send it over to them. And then they say, well, we need this thing in your own words, not our words. And I say, okay. And then I try again for them. And I've been on iterative cycles with these types of groups for a couple months now. And eventually, it pushes me to a point where I'm having conversations with them saying, then you say it. I only know how to say this in so many different ways. When you're and every investment group thinks that there's something like sexy about us that we should really emphasize, and the other, like, there is no two templates that are the same for the deck.
Yep.
I got between even these two groups, the investment banker group says our deck's too small. There's too much going on. We need to add more slides. The other group, the startup group, is like, you have too many slides. You need 12 slides max. The investment banker group's like, you guys should be in that 20 to 25 slide range. And like, that's just like the material of the round. And so for someone like me who is incredibly frustrated because I carried in my head, so if I just get on a call with somebody, I can cover all the information that's not on the slides.
Mm-hmm.
That we're in this dance right now. So I haven't gotten any intros from those two groups yet. I'm still working my own outreach intros. And it wasn't really outreach, but the word of mouth referral network between VCs that has gotten us to this point. And that's what I've got going on.
Well,
Also, we got a tremendous amount of influx interest when I updated our Crunchbase, which was surprising.
yeah.
Because I'll update Angels list and nothing will happen about where we are funding and growth wise and what have you. So for all the Angel list people, I'm not doing it right. But the people that are out there telling me to constantly get on Angel list, that hasn't ever materially got us close to an outcome. But Crunchbase has got us conversations. So
Interesting.
that's my anecdotal updates and feedback on where we are.
Well, you also have another path that you're walking where you have some special advisors who are guiding you towards other opportunities. And it's just, I'm always finding it interesting. So you just talked about this one thing that you're doing, but then you also have the special advisors who are helping you find investors and building up these, clusters of investors. And then you've got your direct outreach, and then you've got inbound based off of like Crunchbase or various things that have hit the news. And it really just made me think that really there's no universal, this is how it's done. What it really is a bunch of small tribes of investors that want to hear things in their own languages. And so these special advisors and these people who are like, oh, you need 5 slides, you need 25 slides. I believe what they're doing is saying, we know the people we're about to go to. And the way they think is blah, blah, blah. And this is what I need to be successful. And so that kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about today, which is communities. Right. I wanted to talk about, there's on the big side of the house, or the macro versus micro, you've got large investor communities, you got small investment communities, you got entrepreneur communities. And what's really on my heart is, like, I'm going up to Charlotte next week for an investor lunch, and there's going to be about 30 investors sitting in a room. And that's going to be the disproportionate amount of influence in that room. Meaning, if one of these VCs say, oh man, I just invested in Hook, it is a rocket, then 29 other VCs are going to call Hook. Maybe I should do that. I should totally do that. Actually, one of your potential lead investors will be in that room. So yeah, tell him, shake a leg and brag a little bit about cybersecurity out of ventures. Anyway, so but yeah, that's what I wanted to nerd out today on, is what about just talking about different communities and how navigating those communities will unlock the opportunities that you don't have, right? You got to have access, who things like that. And so what you're a part of matters, or I'm completely wrong. And, I'm reading the field incorrectly, but I don't think I am. I'm freaking brilliant.
I don't think you are. I think, if I could speak academically for a minute.
Do you have any other way?
I know, right? It's a character flaw I have. I studied philosophy in college, and if that tells you anything about me, it tells you that I'm better than most people.
And unemployable.
Unemployed. That's exactly right. People don't want to work with philosophy folks. It has nothing to do with our lack of skills.
No, that's exactly right. It's your brain is different. I don't like it. Yeah.
So I think I do believe in the hypothesis that 2022 and on, when it comes to startups or anything worthwhile, it is about picking your people, your ideal customer profile. It is about the niche that you decide to serve. There is no longer universal products and solutions that work for everybody. And even the ones that rolled out in the 2.0 of the web, if I can use that phrase, the Facebooks and what have you, there is a fight for the soul of Facebook because there's communities within communities and niches within niches and tribes within tribes, all trying to bring that platform to their values, their point of view. And what would be better off is if we had not just, 6 or 7 social media giants, but if we had built from the beginning a social media ecosystem that reflected the diversity of people and diversity of communities.
Yeah.
But right now you have like the big 6, and then you have to like advertise on the top 6 in order to get your new social media thing, which is usually antisocial. It's like new social media can only pitch, we're not Facebook, or we're a better Facebook to people. And so I say that to say, yes, picking your people or having your people pick you, it's probably 2 sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
is everything about what does it mean to be successful moving forward. That's just what it means.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how do you pick them? How do you know? Like, so I'll give you my example here. Once upon a time, I decided I wanted to be a space entrepreneur. And I was like, I know nothing about space entrepreneurship. So I leveraged my existing network and I found a cool space nonprofit, and I joined it as a board of advisor member. And then I raised my hand and I said, I believe that this is all broken and I should help fix all this. And so I became chair of their development committee. And under my watch, we got 2 tickets gifted to us from Virgin Galactic that we auctioned off for $2 million. And Blue Origin gave us $1 million. Was I responsible for any of that? Absolutely not. But I had the title and I get the credit. So it's fantastic. And so, but the community I joined, Space for Humanity, and was everybody I wanted to know. So from there, I have met all the people. I have had all the connections. I did all the networking. But I had to get involved in the community in order to access the people in the community. Joining it wasn't enough. Volunteering to be chair of a committee got me where I needed to go. So now I have all this space connections. And I was thinking to myself, well, gosh, shouldn't I do that? Isn't there a community of venture capitalists out there where you can join and you can volunteer and you can be a part of to build the networks? And I think that the tactical execution of how do you join a community and leverage it is secondary to what are you trying to accomplish? Right? Because if I didn't have this idea that I wanted to be a space entrepreneur, then I would never have joined a space nonprofit to be an active part of their community. And so I think having the end goal in mind of what communities you're trying to join and what communities are you currently part of that you need to quit, right? We have a lot of legacy things. There's relationships that we have legacy that are dragging us down. There are communities, there are commitments that we've made in the past that are slowing us down. And I think going through a process of auditing your social circles, both professionally and personally, is a real healthy thing to do when you start this journey of building the company that you plan on having be venture backed.
Yeah, I think you said a number of very interesting things in there. So I'm trying to parse out what could be a cool priority. But here's one of the things I think you mentioned, which is it's not just enough to audit and be intentional about the communities you join. It's about the contribution to those communities. and how
Mm-hmm.
a community needs to be able to have a unifying cause, right? It's the common unity. That's what it is. Like there's a unifying thing, but there can be upgrades and the to the way that the community acts together. So you brought a point of view, right? You brought a point
Mm-hmm.
of view, and you brought your success bias on how to arbitrage gifts from one group and get them to a higher value group over here and allow
Mm-hmm.
this group to rally around that, which the community itself wasn't doing before you showed up. So you showed up and you contributed that point of view,
Yeah.
and the community rallied, and then they got to see the monetary value of your arbitrage, and they were now the community is like, oh, that's part of our DNA now. Part of our DNA is getting these things that we have access to that the larger public does not, and if we can shift the value, then we get the gain.
Yeah.
And that's the to circle all the way back to the VC comment, right? Part of the reason there's these uh niches and tribes within VC is because, again, the success bias. Some of them had tremendous success with certain industries, go to markets, certain types of founder profiles, etc. And they have the success bias as to what they value, and they want to create common unity and community, both with their portfolio companies, but other VCs who also share those things. So trying to create a VC community is challenging enough in itself because uh, some of them are too universal. They want to just get the best deals wherever they come from. They think they're smarter than everybody on all levels.
Yeah.
And so they can, but which community can you intentionally join and then can contribute to? That's the questions I think that we're trying to wrestle with.
So and also who's in the community? Who's the community for? What does the community serve? But when you were talking, I was like, man, I just don't know of any VC communities where a managing partner or a general manager of the fund can go and hang out with like 6 to 10 other, general managers or managing partners, right? And is that what we're building with TSOB? Are we gonna have a TSOB like community for non-asshole VCs? And let me be real clear what I mean by that. The only communities work when everybody in the community believes that the community's health directly helps them. Right. So if I believe that America's society and that a healthy country is actually going to provide services that are going to make me feel more comfortable about my kids and about safety and all that, I can put up with an awful lot. If you have a community, which is just everybody ripping themselves to pieces in order to win, then the community doesn't serve its purpose and it's pointless when you should get rid of it. I like the idea of bringing in a bunch of venture capital people who think collaboration creates better outsized returns for their investors. I like that very, very much.
Yeah, let me tell you how in my mind think about communities, right? In some ways it's like how we evolved when it came to like our ancient deities, right? Like each community would value different things, and whether it's geography or family tribe, they would raise up these deities, but then there would be wars, and whichever community won in the war, those deities either won, absorbed. There was a lot of different ways in which a new synthesis of deity would come about.
Hmm.
And so that's how we evolve a number of our understandings on gods, right? Gods with a small g. I think that's what needs to happen in the VC world, right? Like there's a number of VCs who are, dare I say, worshiping different segments and different points of views, and we're still in like the first couple of innings of venture capital.
Sure.
Like it's not sophisticated yet. It is still intuitive driven network owned
Who do you
who
know?
knows who.
Yep.
And that, I mean, I'm not bashing that, but I am saying like you're going to have these clashes once communities rise up and they each hit each other because resources are limited, and one VC is going to want the LPs of another, and
Oh yeah.
they're going to clash. And what's going to end up happening is what we determine as our scorecard is going to win. And I think that's one of the interesting things that's happening going back to space, the space world has moved from pure capitalism, commercialization, how do we mine minerals, even though that's part of it. The overall brand has actually come over towards how do we better humanity.
Yeah.
So it is become an impact investing opportunity, right? And so the impact investing communities are now up against the, pure profit, mine minerals, etc. community. And what seems to be happening is the ones that have social impact are the ones putting more money into space and frontier work, which is mind blowing.
Interesting.
It's mind blowing that as the deities fight, that the impact investing in the green folks are using, like Space for Humanity, for example, is a point of view that all humans are actually part of one community. And
That's
that's
it.
a radical view. And because of that view, you're saying space is the place to unite us.
Yeah, we're gonna have to leave this here planet in order to hang out together.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea then that by the way, I love your weird philosophy academic brain bringing gods and deities, and I was like, man, I thought we were talking about VC, and you're like, we are talking about that. Do you believe then that it is the differences of what the VC believes also has an awful lot to do with the LPs they attract, and so a competitive edge is, does the VC believe what the LP wants to see happen? Like there's guys up in Kentucky who I love, and they are crypto everything, crypto. And but the reason they're crypto is because they love how society is changing, and they like the idea of DeFi, and they like the idea of just being on that cutting edge, right? And so they make a lot of sense for VC. But then you have a whole lot of LPs that are real estate people who are like the gentleman you talked about, who's like, I'm an angel, I want that back in 3 years. I'm like, well, bro, you are not a venture angel. You're a private equity angel. And there's nothing wrong with that. But knowing if you're in the right room is important. Like that poor gentleman doesn't know he's in the wrong room, which is just fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think that's cool. I'm enjoying the idea of exploring the different communities inside of. You're going to SaaStr, yeah?
Yes.
Are there communities inside of that community? Have you looked at where do you want to get involved? Because you've got some interesting. Talk me through it. How are you thinking about the SaaStr community?
So SaaStr community presents itself in call it role-based functions. So like product managers, and their relationship with SaaS, your direct growth marketers, your sales people over here, and because of that segmentation, SaaS companies sell to each other in that segmentation as well. So SaaS companies are constantly like, who is our ideal customer? Well, it's the product managers within other SaaS companies. And so like SaaS is building upon itself right now, which is very hilarious. How many tools are built to just help other SaaS companies go out and provide value to the consumers. And so that's my analysis of the space of the industry when it comes to how do I approach it, because I am trying to, I need to find advocates and internal people within each of these SaaS companies, but I'm not, I'm not there just to make other SaaS companies better. My existence is for a larger audience on how to make, you know, mom and pop shops and tertiary communities safer from phishing attacks, like this, law firm over here or this dental office over here. And it's beyond just SaaS. And so what ends up happening is the rest of the SaaS community is there to really enable me, but I go out and I'm not trying to enable them per se. Now, I do have an offering that they can take on. And so that's where I'm trying to figure out when I go to SaaStr, what is an offering I can bring the SaaStr community to
Hmm.
contribute and change? Because one of the things that is interesting to me is I advocate for two things that are antithetical to SaaS and scale. Uh, I advocate for humans and the human point of view and the human brain and not
Yeah.
technology, not AI, not ML, not all these other things. And then I advocate for slowing down and consideration. And so if you tell a SaaS company, leverage humans and slow down,
That's not how their math works, baby.
not Silicon Valley backed companies, they we're going to give you more money than you need in order to weather the cybersecurity issues that you're bound to have because you will get breached. We don't care. It's about profits. It is not about privacy and security.
No. Well, it's
And
about
so,
perception and cybersecurity is one part of the overall perception of the company. And if you have massive earnings and you have a breach, then that breach isn't going to slow down your massive earnings. Then it's a non-issue. Right. And so, yeah, I like where you're heading with that. I might push back on your strategy a bit, but what I like about what you're saying is that you're coming in about something you care about. Right. When I entered Space for Humanity, what I was pissed off about was how nonprofits raise money. I'm like, why in the hell do you guys keep going around asking for money? Let's build an engine that puts revenue in your pocket over and over and over and over and over again so that you don't have to, maybe go out and raise money for special projects, but for your operational, you should have a revenue generator. Right. That's the thing that got me angry and about nonprofits. And that made me want to get in there and do a thing. The good news was that everyone agreed with me. Everyone said, that's exactly what we want. We don't know how to build that. Will you come chair this dev committee and we'll figure this thing out? Where I see you're coming in with is slow down. Humans are great. And you should really do that. I'm curious to see if anyone else resonates with that. Because if you go into the community that you want to play in and the thing that you're passionate about, nobody resonates with, you might be in the wrong place. And so to me, it's like a great experiment. You can roll into SaaStr, you can walk around, you can beat your drum about what you believe. And if no one shows up, then you probably don't need to carve a little niche out of the organization for yourself. But if they do show up, then you have an opportunity.
yeah. So, I can't help but think about like early childhood development and the idea of how young people form groups and friends, which is largely the pursuit of games and game playing. I mean, I'm not going to give all the background to it, but essentially, the best strategy young people have, especially when entering a new group of people, is they need to show up and have a period of observation. So they're on the playground, they walk up to a group of kids and they need to watch because only by watching can they understand the unspoken rules. And it's the unspoken rules, not the explicit rules, that you need to absorb before you jump in. Okay, so you might know the rules about, soccer, out of bounds, can't touch your hands, etc. But if you don't pay attention to the way they're playing their game, they might be playing the game a little bit different where it's like, oh, actually everybody has to kick the ball before we are allowed to shoot a goal. But they won't say that out loud. So as a kid, you have to watch that. So you have to do a period of observation. And then you have to have a period of risk.
Mm.
And the period of risk is where you actually jump in and try. And you quickly have to iterate. The first impression you have when you jump onto the field is the kid that takes the ball and runs with it and says, I'm going to be the hero, right? Is still going to be ostracized from the group because there's a set of unspoken rules. So you have to show up and begin participating. You have to take a risk. But I imagine when you showed up to your Space for Humanity group, you watched, you listened, you tried to understand what was going on for a bit, you understood the unspoken rules, you might have had a side conversation with one person, and then you just started offering up in the form of questions. Well, guys, what are we really trying to solve here? What is the thing that and you're like, I have this point of view, if you guys will hear me out. And so you're very probably gentle in your initial offerings.
Nope.
No?
No, I
No?
can't. I was first meeting. I said, look, if you don't believe what I believe, I'm getting the hell out of here. I was like, I think that the way you guys are doing fundraising is stupid. I think you need to systemize it. If you agree, I'd love to help. And they were like, yeah, we agree.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe they didn't actually have a game that was working for them.
That's
And so
probably right.
so they weren't actually enjoying a game of soccer. They
They
were
were sitting
just
on the sidelines and like, how do we even get the game started? So I think
yeah,
that maybe it all depends, but you're going into a whole ocean of things. Like your story really makes sense for established organizations that have these unspoken rules and rituals that are not published anywhere. And if you're unaware of those things, I mean, typically, I do think there was a before I got involved with Space for Humanity, I observed other communities. I observed other nonprofits, and I got frustrated with them on how they were doing the funding of their projects. And I was able to bring that observation to another nonprofit that already has those same observations. And so I think it still fits into your model. It's just you don't have to. You can observe the entire industry, not just or like communities, not that particular community to get a lot of it. Because if you're, but there's still going to be nuances, and you learn. I just tend to go a little faster than the observation period. Is that true? Do I believe what I'm saying? No, I don't, because it took me years to pick the ones that I wanted to do, and by the time I landed, I had figured out what the inside unspoken rules were for nonprofits that I could then say and get everyone excited. But I had to burn a lot of cool conversations in order to get there.
yeah. Yeah, there are communities for people who feel ostracized by other communities, right? Like part of the reason I'm an entrepreneur is I felt very ostracized by the hiring and onboarding process of corporations.
Yeah.
You know, my initial instinct coming out of college was to go get more graduate school, to be more accepted by people, to have a higher value in the marketplace, and to
Yeah.
work in the corporate space. And to do that, and the corporate world rejected me for whatever reason,
Personal
right?
hygiene.
Personal hygiene. Um, and so I found a niche of other folks out there who also, you know, did not have successful either time or onboarding process with corporations, or
Yeah.
they had to exit from them to pursue their own vision. So on my Twitter, um, you know, people have commented my headline, whatever it is, you know, my bio. I say for the love of the person who jumps. And I've gotten a number of people who started conversations like, oh, yeah, I love the person who jumps too. I'm somebody who jumped.
Well,
And
that's
that's a
so
niche.
cool.
That's a unique community where we're trying to figure out the unwritten rules of what does it mean to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
Well,
that's part of some of these challenges when trying to build a community or be part of community is, you know, do you go in and infiltrate one that currently exists? Do you figure out one that's broken and needs updating? Or
yeah.
do you build something that has been rejected by others?
Yeah. And you're bringing up a cool point in there as well. Is one of the reasons people get rejected is when there's a role mismatch or a fit of belief. And so the purpose of the community is often around the belief. You got to jump, you got to put spaces, one society, there's a belief there. And then if the roles inside of that do not match with how you want to operate, then there's still a mismatch. And so I feel like people are just so unintentional about how they pick who they spend time with and what organizations they spend time with. And literally the number one most important thing in entrepreneurship are the people that you are associating with. And that's it, hands down. I am a pretty good technologist. I am pretty good at knowing how companies work. But what I am a master at is making really good relationships and connections that are, win-win-wins for everybody involved. And that's the only reason that I get to play the game at the level I'm playing it at. And it's nothing to do with my personal ability. It has everything to do with the fact that I care about the people who are on the other side of the table, and I want to see them be successful as well. So,
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that I'm going to say there's a group of people who believe that the best possible outcome for me is for you to likewise be successful, achieve, win, move forward, whatever it is. Right. And I butt up against people all the time where the best possible outcome for themselves is just stops there. Whatever it means to win in the short term, in the whatever span of space and time I have, like I just define my own win, and that's what's important. And you should define your win too. And good for you. But I don't own the burden of your win. And I think that's very interesting because I've come across some people I deeply respect who do not care if you win or not on a deal, on a negotiation, hell, in a conversation. They say their piece. And so what I find is very interesting is like I see a role for them, but man, it is so deep in me to want to have a community and to be able to empathize with bringing other people along in success that I can't get there mentally.
Yeah.
And I this, I even started schools because I just get so moved by, disengaged, disaffected, perhaps neglected populations of people. And so
that's cool.
I can't win unless they win. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing for me to process, that there are people walking around going, "It's okay if I win and you don't."
Yeah. Yeah. That's real interesting because I bet those aren't necessarily bad people. I think that it could be that is just a skewed understanding of how all this big machine called society works, and how, if I win and you lose.
Well, they don't care if you lose. That's the point.
They just care if they win.
Yeah, and I'm not making a judgment call on them. I am not saying that I am better than them. I am saying that, like,
I love to win, dude. Winning is my favorite. Just absolutely my favorite. I'm not going to ever pretend like losing makes me happy. When revenue's up, I'm feeling good. When revenue's down, I'm feeling bad. I wish I could like pull myself away from that, but 45 years old. I think that I'm done improving. So, but the interesting thing is, man, it's the drive to win is important, and I want people to have the drive to win, but how you win matters. And if you leave a just deluge of bodies behind you and you've wrecked everything to get to where you're going, that feels wrong to me. But in the back of my head, I'm like, well, sometimes doesn't progress require like a douchebag asshole to like kick in doors and grow? And I think that's popular culture speaking, not the truth. I'm willing to bet data will back up collaborative communities producing more value than benevolent dictators driving companies. If you look at Apple, for example, it wasn't Steve Jobs who made Apple awesome, although he did his thing. He has his role. It was the people inside of Apple that made it awesome, right? It's not Elon Musk that makes SpaceX baller. It was the rocket scientists, engineers, and the workforce that did the impossible. And yes, does Elon get credit? 100%. I don't, that's great. But these are two individuals who absolutely love to win, and that's important to them. I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't winning as opposed to somebody else losing, right?
That's correct. They created their own game, actually, if you really think about it.
That's right. They played a different game. I think it's I think that this is what I suspicion. I reserve the right to be wrong about this observation. So that the people like myself who are very interested in investors, it's not just because my company has a different valuation, access to capital. Shoot, I can even like pay myself differently or pay my team differently if we get the capital, right? It's not about just getting that money right now and not waiting for it, and as opposed to bootstrapping.
Right.
It's because as a joy to me, I will feel like it's a better win if a number of other people win.
Yeah.
Like I will get more out of living in a world where the founding team at Hook Security all became millionaires. I will get so much more out of that. It'll be a win-win.
Yeah.
And then as opposed to, I've talked recently to a few bootstrappers, and like they don't care about the pie getting bigger. What they care about is they own 100% of it.
Yep.
And, I'm like, I'll be great owning 25% of a very big pie. And they're like, well, it's the same math as me owning 100% of the smaller pie, but I don't have to worry about anybody else. I don't have to make anybody else win. Everybody else can go pound sand. I'm going to win. And I think that's so interesting because that's what I mean. I'm not putting down the bootstrapper, but I'm looking at them going like, how I don't know if I could be purely happy if all that won out of my business was me and my immediate family.
Well, and you have to define one. So my first company was bootstrapped, and the way I felt the joy was I reminded myself every day how many mortgages my company was paying for. Mm-hmm. And looking at, I have people that I'm paying 10% more than the average that they could get. Whatever the salary that they were supposed to be getting based off of whatever HR professional said, I was like, always increase it by 10%. I got a great deal of satisfaction knowing that the machine that we were building together was providing them an amazing lifestyle on their terms, where most of them were unable or unwilling to understand the business side of the house. And so one of the things that I like about a venture-backed company is that the CEO isn't necessarily as isolated as a bootstrap company. The bootstrap company, you are an army of one. You are that's it. And you carry everything on your shoulders. The venture-backed CEO has his own set of challenges, but at least it's not, it's still isolating. There's never going to be anybody gets into your head, but you're surrounded with people, especially with some of the special advisors and investors who've been there, done that. And you have the ability to build an amazing team to help you grow and mentor you, where the bootstrapped person is isolated. And to me, I didn't even know I was bad at business until I began hanging out with other entrepreneurs. And it took me 6 years to do that. I thought I was going out of business for 6 years before I finally figured out maybe this thing's going to keep doing this. That's cool. But yeah, no, it's how do you define winning? How you think about yourself? What are you believing? That all depends. That all dictates what kind of communities you're going to be a part of, what kind of businesses you're going to be building, and who you're going to be spending time with. And I think you got to get that tight.
That's my point, is you're nailing it, because it is about, you get to choose. And so we chose our investors. We have the privilege of working even at Hook Security with awesome clients and partners.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to refund or fire people who are headaches, and we have. And I wouldn't make that my number one bragging point to other investors, but our client and partner and investor list brings me joy.
Yeah.
And that's a community that we're building at Hook that is a lot of fun. And so putting all those things together, I want to say, like, I get it that there's different mindsets about what does it mean to build a community, to be part of one, what have you. And I love the fact that if Hook wins, a whole army of people will win. And I say win as in like an exit evaluation, a liquidity event, something that we're building towards that is a big milestone for everybody to participate in.
Preach it. That was a great way to end a good conversation about community. Community is the groups that you hang out with. It's the companies you're building. It's the, family that you choose. It's the family that you have. It's really, really interesting.
There's a family you have. There's a family you wish you had.
Well, growing up in the military, we always said we had the privilege of choosing our cousins. Like, there was always, military families, you build your family. Where my wife, being a Southern Belle, has like 120 cousins, and you didn't get to pick them, right? I'll pick my team. You get forced your team, and so it's but yeah, the family you have versus, oh, man, sure looks good over there. I mean, she's so much quieter. I'm talking about teenagers at this point. This is just not going to land well. Good thing my wife doesn't listen to these things.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Good thing that our immediate family could care less about.
That's right. Oh,
you got your silly little podcast? You recording it with your little bearded friend? Okay, there you go. You can do it.
TSOB, where Zach and I talk into microphones and nobody cares. Yeah. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it. I have a hell of a lot of fun with this thing. I hope you do too.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Pleasure talking this week.
Indeed. Enjoy SaaStr.
Hey, and thanks for joining us for the TSOB podcast. Find us on LinkedIn and give us your hot take. The whole reason we're doing this is to get access to better conversations that help us up our game. And if you have something you want to share, we want to hear about it. Find us on the TSOB LinkedIn group and jump in with 2 feet. We can't wait to chat.